Hey, what's up guys? It's MJ from MJ Media, and in this video I'm going to try to teach you Flexbox. Alright? Now, there are two things you need to understand. So, the first thing is the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay? The x-axis goes from left to right, and the y-axis goes from top to bottom. Why? They don't know. That's why it's called the y-axis. I'm kidding. Alright, just remember the x-axis goes from left to right. The y-axis goes from top to bottom. Alright, this will become important to you in just a moment. First, let's start our HTML. As you can see, I'm in the body tag right here, and I'm just going to create a simple container div just to show you what we're doing. Okay, now let's go ahead and style that container div just so you can see. Alright, as you can see, I opened this body tag and just set the margin and padding to 0, so we don't have any extra space that we don't need. Okay, now let's target that container div and let's give it a width of 100%, a height of, let's say, about 675 pixels. Okay, you can make that whatever you want, it doesn't matter. And let's make the background teal. Okay, alright, now let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Okay, we can work with that. Now let's go inside the container div and let's create an object. Alright, so I want you to use your imagination with this. This container can be anything. Alright, it can be a newsletter, it can be your nav bar, it can be a footer, it can be anything, any element on the page that you want to use as the container. This is it, okay? And everything inside is the object. Okay, there can be 1, there can be 10, there can be 100. Alright, so let's see. We have the container, and inside that we have an object. So let's go ahead and style that object, and we'll say that we want the object to have a width of 100 pixels, a height of 100 pixels. Once again, you can make this whatever you want. I'm just going to show you the basics. Okay, let's give it a background color of tomato. Okay, there we go. Now if we refresh, you can see it right there. Okay, so now comes the interesting part. Flexbox works like this. The second thing you need to do is you need to declare display flex on the container. Alright? On the wrapper. Everything is inside the container or the wrapper or whatever you call it. You need to declare display flex on that, on the container. Okay? The second thing you need to do is you need to declare the flex direction, and the default is row, but we're just going to declare it for now just so you can see what happens. Okay, now the important part that you need to wrap your head around is two properties. Okay, there are more, but these are the basics. The first one is justify content. The second one is align items. Alright, those are two properties. And those two properties have three basic values. They have more, but these are the basics. The three basics are flex start, center, and flex end. Okay, now here's how it works. First you declare display flex, then you set the flex direction to row, And if you say justify content flex start, then it will be on the left hand side, on the start of the container. Okay, and if you say align items also to flex start, it will also be there. Alright, let's see. It didn't move. Now here's the interesting part. You see the container is the blue part, right? And the object is the red part. Now here's where it becomes interesting. If you take justify content and you set its value to center, let's see what that does. It moves the object to the center of the container on the x-axis. Alright? Now, guess what the align items does? It works on the y-axis. Okay? So if you say center there, and you refresh, it jumps to the center of the container because it's in the center of the x-axis and it's in the center of the y-axis. Okay? Now, what happens if you say flex start and flex end? So it will jump to the bottom left. Why did it do that? Okay, because on the x-axis it is on flex start, which means it's in the beginning. But in align items, it's on the flex end, which takes it to the end of the y-axis. Alright, is this starting to make sense to you? Now, let me show you what happens if I say flex end here. It jumps to the other end, because now it's on the end of the x-axis and it's on the end of the y-axis. Okay? Now, let me put this back to center. So, the default direction for Flexbox is row. Now, if you go ahead, let's just add another object right here. Okay, so I can show you. Let's add 2 more. And also, let's just give them a margin of 1 pixel so you can see them. Okay, let's refresh. Now you can see there are 3 objects within the container. Okay, now let's change the flex direction to column and see what happens. Alright, it moved. Now, the justify content is no longer set to the x-axis. It is now on the y-axis, and align items is now the x-axis. Alright, if you say flex direction row, then justify content is on the x-axis. Align items is on the y-axis. If you switch it around and say they should display in columns, then justify content is on the y-axis and align items is on the x-axis. Where do you use this? Okay, let's set it back to row so I can give you an example. Let's say our nav bar was at the top. Let's just say it has a height of 100 pixels. Alright, let's refresh. Now we can see we have 3 items inside the container in the center of the container because justify content is set to center. Alright, Now let me actually just make this height a little bit smaller and save that so you can see. Okay, so it's in the center of the center. Both of them are set to center. Okay, now if we wanted to move the items within our nav bar to the right, we would say justify content, flex end. There you go. Okay, and if we wanted it to be at the top, we would say align items, flex start. There we go. Okay, but it looks better in the center. Okay, there we go. Now, another thing that I want to show you is you can say justify content space between. That will put equal amount of space between the objects. Alright, so one object will be completely to the left and the last one will be completely to the right. Now if you say space around, then it will put space, equal amount of space, between each object. Cool, huh? Alright, guys, that is the basics of Flexbox. Guys, I'm glad I could have helped you, and if you found any value in this video, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be making a lot more content, valuable content for you to use in your projects. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.